Welcome to this week's episode of the World of Roofing podcast, hosted by John Kenny of Cotney's Attorneys and Consultants and Andrew Rowley of roofmapping.com, where we will introduce you to a new roofing industry craftsman from around the world.
All right, well, welcome everybody to another episode of World in Roofing podcast. As always, John Kenny, Cotney Consulting Group here is your host, and my co-host Andrew Rowley is with roofmapping.com. And today we have our special guest. Now, where he's not usually used to being in this seat, he's used to being in the seat that does the interviews, but we are really happy to have Tats here today with us. Before we jump into our guest Tats, Andrew, anything, you got some really good stuff, new stuff coming up, some new promotions for roofmapping.com. You give us a little, tell us about it.
Yeah, so I'm going to be recording a video just showing everyone of the new roofs that were put on in March, just as an overview, so you can see what's been going on there. As you can see, the background's changed. This is Elm Cottage by our good friend Joe, who was on our first episode. Yep. It's just won second place as the best thatched house from the National Thatchers Association. So, yeah, I'm still trying to promote those, award-winning everyday roofs that are being done, just to get them on the map and show everyone the world above them, definitely. But this past week, actually, I had the joy of being interviewed by Tats. So, this is a little bit of a comeback for him.
Excellent.
Looking forward to it.
So I just want to tell all the roofers out there, we're starting to get a good base. And I know, Tats, you've got a huge following on your podcast as well. They really need to get their projects up on roofmapping.com. This is the first time I've been in the industry forever. I consider dinosaur fossils, whatever, been around a long time. That you got a chance to get your projects promoted on a worldwide basis, and it's easy. You just go upload it and you're all set. So, you got to do it. Got to do it. It's better than social media. It's a way of permanently having a record to send your customers, and it gives you that worldly view because you're all the different countries that are represented. I think it's great. So, Tats, welcome here today. Glad to have you. You're CEO of Castagra, and you also run the Growth Podcast. So, why don't you go ahead and everybody, you got a couple good stories I know to tell us. I mean, how did you get started in the industry? How did you become the CEO? And also how'd you get going with this podcast? And you have a huge passion for interviewing so many great leaders in the industry.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, John and Andrew, for the opportunity. So my sort of my story started off with Castagra was, I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. And I remember when I was 10 years old and I had a friend that had a pear tree in his backyard. And I came up with this idea to take these pears, find a location, and we found this, sort of location right near a bus stop, near a convenience store without any fruit. We set up a table and we started selling pears. And we were mildly successful because some people are feeling very sorry for us. But there was a guy that came over with his girlfriend and, took out his wallet, pulled out a crisp $20 bill and gave it to us and said, I love entrepreneurs and I want to support you. So he didn't buy any, pears. Maybe they were very sad looking, but for me, when you try something, when you put yourself out there and give it a go, hey, what do you have to lose? And I was hooked though. I really wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I knew I needed help. And when I was in university, I was kind of at a crossroads. I needed a mentor. So a friend of mine introduced me to a guy named Peter Rosen, who is my business partner to date. We co-founded Castagra. He's the inventor of our Ecodur coating. And I wanted to learn from someone, so someone introduced me to Peter, and he was amazing. Like he invented the Windows Media Player, so our ability to watch a video on the computer is due to him. And he invented some early 3D printing technology, and he invented a steel measuring technology that later partially inspired the MRI patent. And in you like history, so transport back 30 years. So this is before my time with Peter. In North America, I don't know about over in the UK or not. There was a trend when the high-end homes had a lot of curved walls, curved staircases, and the carpenters would pull their hair out, because when at the time to be able to do the baseboards on these curved walls, there was no material to do it properly. So they had to take these wooden baseboards and cut them up in Lego sized pieces and try to reassemble them along this wall and make it look presentable. Huge frustration. So one of Peter's close friends was picking on him because he's an inventor, and he finally sort of gave in and said, fine, I'll do it. I'll create something for this that it needs to be nailable, it needs to be paintable, it needs to be flexible, but it has to, his thing with it has to be sustainable. So he spent 6 months, and back then the internet wasn't a thing, so combing through libraries and going through all the technologies of the various things from all the world, the way that we used to, through the library and other resources. And he kind of found a way to create something that could go around these curved walls. And that since took off and it went many places. But what happened was he accidentally invented a coating product. I mean, it's like the what was it, the radar, sort of thing, or microwave accidental. There's all these accidental inventions. So he invented this coating by accident. And being the sort of inventor, sort of scientist type he is, he started to coat roofs with it. He coated ship decks. He coated everything to just see how it's going to go. Did some light selling, but essentially he lost interest, right? Because he just went on to work on locomotive projects, ship projects, and stuff like that. And when we met, we did a lot of launching products and stuff like that. But 12, 13 years ago, I was sort of looking for a new thing to pivot to, just because, I started to realize the stuff that I was doing just wasn't aligned with me in terms of, sustainability and the stuff that, started to become more important to me as I got older. And I remembered that Peter worked on this project that he kind of shelved and didn't really do much with. So I convinced him to relaunch it. And with, at this point, 20 years of field history, right? He has seen how this thing performs in the harshest, applications. And, luck plays a big part in it. At the time that we were relaunching this, right? Developing some new intellectual property, improving upon it, the entrepreneurial reality game show called Dragon's Den, which had the same Shark Tank host, Kevin O'Leary, Robert Herjavec, was hosting a competition that was piggybacking on the show. So the prize was $100,000, no strings attached, for the best sustainable innovation in Canada. And we lobbied the producers. There was 4,000 entries. And long story short, Peter made the pitch. We won, right? So we got the 100 grand. We got about 12 million free views. And we turned down the celebrity judges' monies. We raised some money privately, and we launched the company.
Wow. Now, I got to jump in here because as everybody that follows me, I am a lover and passion for roofing history. But even being said, with all that experience that I have, I would have never, ever connected that you went from selling peaches with your friend to he developed to rounded carpentry to that, accidentally created coating, going on a show for sustainability in Canada, winning, and where you are today. No way I would have ever put those pieces together. So that's why we have these podcasts, to get that information out there. Absolutely amazing story.
Yeah. So our journey specifically into the roofing sort of went like this. And I'll kind of like fast forward a few things to just get to the relevant roofing parts. Is, initially we got pulled into the roofing industry because we had we still have a talented sales executive that got us into oil and gas and water and wastewater. And in 2014, the price crashed. absolutely crashed. And we saw our sales tank 80% in 45 to 60 days. And, that feeling, when, pale face, staring at the computer, wondering what excuse or what you're going to tell people because you're complete failure, just kind of that gut-wrenching feeling that no one really likes to talk about when they're glorifying entrepreneurship. We were all feeling that, as a team, but we found a way to gut it out. We pivoted into flooring. And then, because flooring contractors, I guess there's some overlap over to roofing in some regards. We started to get a lot of interest because our performance characteristics were very, very unique. We were sustainable, the right perm rate, the adhesion was amazing, things that people have never seen. And then all these other properties that were by mistake, in this product. So originally, we were a little skeptical about the roofing industry. And the reason why was the roofing industry, from my point, was that there was the predominant use of warranties to sell products. And these warranties were very aggressive in some regards. And, frankly, I didn't really understand it. And it was a little intimidating. And so we kind of understand, coming from an agency that was doing product validation and product launch, we're inherently trying not to fall in love with the product or early interest. We're always kind of we need to stress test this and stuff. And after a bunch of queries from very, very established people in the industry saying, hey, there's a problem that needs to be solved, we took our steps into it. And over a course of a bunch of years, we realized that there is a need here. And we've doubled down. So a few things I've learned, coming, I'd say relatively new. I mean, John, Andrew, you have been in the roofing a long time. So being relatively new, I noticed is the roofing industry is the warmest, welcoming community that I have ever experienced. Like when I was launching products, I would launch products into so many different industries. But going into the roofing industry, I would have to say that it's the most warmest, giving industry that I experienced, even being experienced in so many other industries.
Sure,
it's good to know.
No, it's why they always say if you ever watch the Godfather movies, once you're in, you can't get out. It's that's exactly what the roofing industry is. We are very warm and loving, and we like to keep our folks engaged. But, you brought up a good point there. I just want to touch on about the warranties, because I remember back before warranties were a player in the marketing market in roofing companies. And then they did become how people went to market to sell their roofing products, which I think was a very dangerous move. And I still don't really, warranties are warranties. They're like anything else that's written on paper. Their value is what they actually don't cover, which is more than what they do cover. But especially in the coating markets, it got a lot of companies in trouble, and there was a lot of failures, and it happened in EPDM and other areas prior to that. But I like how you approach the going to market by having a quality product, and everything was about the product and not about the warranty. Yes, you have the coverage and all that, but if you got a really good product, somebody told me once, if you have a really good product, you don't have to worry about the warranty. And that is really the truth. I mean, yes, you got to have it for as far as, specifications and owner comfort. But if you got a really good product, the warranty is just a piece of paper that goes along with it.
Yeah. And going into the sort of the oil and gas and looking at water and wastewater and flooring and roofing, I got to see a lot of differences in how adoption and where the decision-making resides. And in oil and gas, the decision making, the strongest influencers is in the engineering companies. And if you're a new entrant, it takes about 3 years. If you're in water and wastewater, maybe not with the smaller water authorities, but you need to show 5 years history in that market. You may be in another state, but no, our water is different. We need to see it in this market 5 years. And then flooring is a little bit quicker because there's lower liability and risk. But it's harder to prove, durability or last because a lot of these are internal locations and stuff like that. But for us in the roofing industry, one thing that's been pretty unique, and this was not by design, is we have a very simple way to prove that our thing can work, is with an adhesion test, right? So that's been very helpful in communicating, because I honestly think, I come from marketing, but I think you should never go by what the marketing material says. There's good people in front of every company, but everyone's got a job to do. And I think, if there's a tangible way that you can test it, that is understood by people, then it really kind of like changes the conversation. Like, please don't take our word for it, because even the most sort of benign marketing material is kind of, it has to promote. So let's agree on a way that we can test this side by side, and you tell us if this meets your standard. And I think that's been very helpful for us, is and doing that. So now, you mentioned earlier, John, why did I start the podcast? Actually, there's two, right? The Specified Growth podcast, one of the things was a big sort of wake up call to me, is when you launch, like I did 100 product launches, okay? And then when you start off in the coating industry, when you get millions of dollars of free press, it kind of got to my head. I thought I knew what I was doing, right? And some parts, yes, I knew what I was doing. And we went there, and with the help of talented people, we got, the biggest customers in the world, Shell, Halbert, currently we still do NFL stadiums, professional baseball stadiums. But there's a difference between launching a product and defending your position.
Yep.
And you're an operator as well, so this. Once people see what you've done and what your playbook is, you have to have a good enough operation or sustainable advantage that you can stay there and hold your ground. And with the agency, we were not accountable for that. We just get it out there, get the buzz, get all the PR, get the initial distribution. All right, have a nice life in many situations. And that's where I really screwed up. And I realized that the building materials, construction, the roofing industry, depending on which slice you tackle, there was a lot of localized knowledge, regulations, depending on who you talk to, 6 to 7 opinion leaders. And for me, I needed to become stronger as an entrepreneur, and I need to become more knowledgeable about the nuances of everything. And I could not find one person that could tell me this. I was trying. I wanted one person and sit them down for 2 hours and tell me everything, right? But I couldn't. So I started to sort of piece together what I needed to know to become better. And then part of that journey became, how can I elevate, because the sort of industry has given so much to me, and that's what my podcast has evolved a little bit more. And by extension, the Roofers Reflections, the roofer community has been so great to me. What can I do to give back? What can I do to dispel the stereotypes, right? Where I dig into people's story, and then people realize that, there's no difference between someone that's in the roofing industry or in another trade or in the technology industry, and there's so much commonality that I just want to sort of dispel that. Now, the second reason I'm doing the Roofers Reflections one is, I love to, keep in mind who I'm serving, because when you are in a CEO role that I'm currently in, and you're looking at numbers and prices are going up or whatever is happening, I think you never want to detach yourself from who you are serving. And when I'm interviewing these people, I know about their families, the struggles they went to, and my hope is that's going to keep me grounded going forward.
That's great. I mean, that's passion right there. And I can tell you, just my opinion of you sitting in the CEO seat running a company like that. I've seen a lot of CEOs make the opposite, which is a mistake of not staying in touch with the people that they serve, because you do serve people. They're not there to serve your needs. You're there to serve their needs. That I think is a fantastic way of staying grounded, as you put it. I think that is a great explanation. But I know from knowing you well enough and following you and listening to your stuff, and I've had opportunity to be on your podcast. We met a while ago. You're sincere, and that is the amazing part about it that's missing today. So I recommend anyone to go back to your YouTube channel and start going if they haven't seen them. I mean, you're on LinkedIn as well. You're there. See these. There's some really good interviews and of talking to people there. I think it's a great job and fantastic tie-in of your company. Like I said, I would have never put that together in a million years. That's fantastic.
It would make a horrible book. And books need to be very linear, right? Like it was supposed to happen this way. And as we know, if we kind of peel back the layers of anyone's life, it's like this. But those books don't sell because books are supposed to make you feel like there's order in the world and there's a process. And if you follow these 5 steps, everything will be okay. But we know.
Great movie, though.
Great movie. That's
great
true.
Movie. Andrew, any specific questions for Tats today?
Not really. No, it's just a lot of entrepreneurs, like your friend. It's a happy sort of accident, isn't it? But it was interesting how he sort of took a break from it. His mind had moved on. He'd already created a great product, but he was already looking for the next big thing, maybe, or his mind was just active enough to do that. And I think that sometimes we're all like that, aren't we? Where we may sometimes miss an opportunity, but luckily you were there, or opportunities came to get that into the roofing market, and you've continued to pursue that. And it's great when products can happen like that they really do serve a purpose. And that's what entrepreneurship is all about, isn't it? Normally finding a product that's going to solve a problem for somebody or a lot of people. And you just got to continue to believe in it. So yeah, it's great to hear. So thank you.
Yeah, another thing I noticed, and I don't know, if it's been tried or if it even works at a large level, but I know that you both talked about trying to attract younger people into the trades, and I know that's an industry-wide problem, and it's not an easy problem. So I have some thoughts on things that could work. I don't know, I haven't experimented them on a larger scale, but where my marketing brain always goes to, if you want people that don't know about roofing to pay attention to roofing, in the marketing world there's something called a pattern break, right? And the pattern break is which you sort of show something, or you take an approach that is different than what their view of an industry is, or what their view of a let's say an outbound email or something like that. So a completely opposite. So looking at opportunities to position roofing and the great things about roofing alongside or in stories that typically you wouldn't associate roofing with, maybe one way to garner some attention and maybe test out. I mean, I had fun with my daughter, inventing that roof coating video game. I don't know if you saw that, the mobile game. So I noticed a lot of people that weren't in roofing commenting and sending me message on it. I thought, hey, maybe there's other ways that we can position roofing, and like take the history, like what other industries did roofing spawn off that maybe people don't know, that it would completely change. Like roofing invented something over here, or a famous roofer did something completely unrelated to roofing. He was also a world-class chef, or I don't know. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, that's where my mind goes to in pattern break, because when we approach things the same way, then those sort of silos get kind of sort of tighter and tighter. So if there's anything that we can do to break the silo, I thought maybe that could be one. Another idea that I've been testing as well is, this is not everyone, but there's a lot of language around attracting people into the industry. And for me, where my marketing mind goes, there's three groups, okay? There's group one, which is already sold, right? That they love roofing, they're in roofing, rah. And I notice a lot of the stuff that goes off online is geared to the people that are already sold on roofing, right? And then there's a group always that will never be sold on roofing, not because roofing is bad, just because it just doesn't fit with their mindset. Mm-hmm. And then there's the people in the middle in the gray, right? That they haven't decided one way or the other. The best marketing in the world will not convince the people that, just won't. You just don't get everyone. But it's that middle group that hasn't made up their mind or is flexible and open thicker that we can target. And it's hard to attract people into the industry when the cultures of these companies are not quite in line with the cultures of the groups that you're trying to attract. So the disconnect occurs, I think, where the marketing people that the roofing companies hire to try to position these companies with their existing culture, even if they're successful to attract people in, they don't stay because what was advertised and what is presented in the company don't align. So I think at some level there may be a need, and I'm trying to do this in the technology industry, is not attract people into the industry, go to the industries where you want to attract, or go to the groups of people and embed yourself in the community, and then learn, talk to people at a peer level, and then build the bridge back to the roofing industry. So that's my best guess. I'm trying to do that with certain groups, and I feel that could be an opportunity for the roofing industry.
No, I think it's a great idea. One, couple good points. You got to go after your sweet zone, right? Your sweet spot. You're never going to convert the non-believers. You don't want to try to convert them. They've got their path. That's great. If you're already in it, we like to all broadcast to those in it for a reason, but it's that middle ground is what you want to convert. A fantastic point. I'm a baby boomer, right? And I will tell you from being a baby boomer, which, and again, I preach a lot on workforce development and recruitment. But what's wrong out there is exactly what you brought up. The recruiting into our industry has not changed since we were recruiting baby boomers like myself 40 years ago in there. We're still using the same tactics, and it doesn't work. And it shouldn't work because every generation is different. And that's the good part about it. I will tell you, Tats, I'd love to have set up an offline conversation with you on this to take this to the next level. I think you got some great ideas. And I know, Andrew, you got 3 countries here, right? We're supported on 2 different continents. We can get the message out to everybody. So let's set that up and let's see if we can take it a little bit further.
Absolutely.
Great.
Happy to help however I can.
Absolutely. Tat, anything else you'd like to say to our viewers before we break off?
No, just thank you. I love what you guys do. I mean, the passion is, it's just overflowing, and I'm learning things every time you guys post something. I'm learning something new, so I appreciate you guys.
Oh, appreciate the reply back. And again, like I said, they got to watch what you got doing. We have great respect for what you've been doing in the industry, and keep on doing what you're doing. It's needed out there greatly. So that being said, we're coming to an end of another episode. I want to thank my co-host, Andrew, always is roofmapping.com. Like I said, you haven't checked it out, go check it out. And of course, special thanks to you, Tats, for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
All right, we'll catch you next month on the next one. Thank you.